so very much for that, Misa. Thank you for holding us all together. I can see that this is going to be a little bit like herding cats. And so I'm so glad that you took that job on. Thank you so much, Anne, for inviting us. So I know Anne through the Trade Experts. So my name is Hanna Norberg, and I'm calling in from Sweden here today. And so I'm an independent trade policy advisor. And so I work with the policymakers who I would say sort of make the rules for the road. Rules of the road for those who do the trade. And I also work with researchers, and I do my own research. So I just recently did a study on the AFCFTA on the environmental effect on air pollutions, for example. And then together with Ben, I also work to bridge the gap between researchers and policymakers, and then also with firms, right? So trying to sort of get the whole picture of how trade policy work. I have also been fortunate enough to work with the implementation of free trade agreements. So once they are signed, once they are ratified, then how you actually make it happen. So that's my perspective, and that's what I'm hoping that I could add to the conversation here today.
Anna, do you want to add something onto that?
Yeah, I was just going to give sort of a global perspective on what we see, from the outside looking at Africa. So across the world, we're seeing some nationalist tendencies, and we're seeing that countries that used to be all about liberalizing are turning inwards. And so there's a huge strategic, but also symbolic importance of the AFCFTA getting 54 countries signing on, taking the leadership, taking the light and running with it and saying, I don't know what you guys are up to, but for us, this is really important, and we're going to do it, everyone, all together. So symbolically, it is huge. And there's a big movement and really impressive, splendid, I'd say.
Does it mean that policymakers can now just sit back and watch the fruits of their labor turn into the riches across the continent?
No. This is sort of tying together with what both Rachel and Ben were talking about, right? So to me, having a trade agreement is sort of like having a gym membership. It's nice to have, but just lying there in your wallet, is not going to make you fit. So the trade agreement, having the trade agreement is of no use until you actually do use it, and firms actually do use it. And it actually trickles down to the grassroots that Rachel was talking about, right? So when you actually have the firms, and not just the big firms, the multinationals, but those small and medium-sized enterprises, the grassroots actually using them. And so this is where the juicy part is. This is where the hard work is. So where we are right now is that these countries have decided, yes, to have a trade agreement and lower tariffs, as Ben said, right? That was the easiest part. So they've decided that there will be a gym, and they have drawn up sort of the lines for it and decided that they are there. But then everything that's needed now is from here to getting to where firms actually use it. And so that's the long road, and that is the juicy part. And this is where we need all the actors. So everybody who's listening in here need to lean forward and make sure that it gets done. Right. And this is what is also super exciting about trade, because what research tells us is important for building economic development. But even more importantly is to get all those stages there that Ben was talking about. So we have tariffs, but then we have non-tariff barriers. And this is everything that stops SMEs from trading. And so that can be anything from what Ben was calling, he was talking about infrastructure, which is just roads and harbors and electricity. And we were talking about, I heard Anne talking about this morning about, just digital connectivity, right? So just having that, being able to do it, like physically able. But my favorite part of this is building what we call the quality infrastructure. And so that's different. So this is about institutions. that are needed in the economies.
I know I still had one more question for you, Hannah, but we have fast run out of time. If I could ask you guys for your one piece of advice that you would be able to give to, especially to small and medium-sized enterprises out there, in terms of how they can take advantage of the opportunities that are presented by global trade, what advice would that be? I will start with you, Hannah.
That's a difficult one for me, being a policy advisor and not even in Africa. So I feel like I'm not really posed to take the question, but it would be to get your house in order, get your papers ready, and then hang out at places like this, like Anne's putting together, right? Find your network of people who work with similar things, learn as much as you can, and be bold.
Thank you for that, Hannah. I hope in Africa, they say those who have ears have heard.